Lucky you!
Best 36 holes in golf.
You tuned in to Alternate Shots Podcast,
Arnie's Army.
where we talk about golf,
Marquis, Sandy's,
poker,
Bond, James Bond.
horse racing,
I'm all in.
great movies.
Alfred Hitchcock.
We have no script.
And down the stretch they come.
We're glad you joined us.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Whoop. Let's start again.
Carte. Neuf à la banque.
I need
Carte.
another 1,000.
I admire your courage, Miss.
Trench. Sylvia Trench. I admire your luck, Mr.
Bond. James Bond.
Mr. Bond. I suppose you wouldn't care to, raise the limit?
I have no objection.
Well, welcome, Alternate Shots fans. We seem to obsess over James Bond, and so do you all. And that's why we're doing another James Bond episode. We even got all dressed up. Billy in his hat that is going to take out the Stoke Park with Hawker, his caddy, right, Billy?
That's it. I mean, they made 25 James Bond movies, so obviously no one can get enough of James Bond.
Nobody can get enough. And what we're going to do today is focus not on what we talked about before. We may have a little bit of overlap, but mostly on the opening credits, the opening scenes. And we're going to pick these apart, maybe from worst to best. Let's check this out. That's the very first gun barrel in Dr. No.
I mean, you hear that music and all you want to do is like get involved. It's probably the most iconic music in the history of filmdom.
And we have a fondness for the first, as you say, Billy, the first Bonds really set a high bar.
They did indeed, and Sean Connery set, you know, I think a bar that could never be repeated as often as it was tried, and there were some great Bonds even after Sean Connery, but you Google James Bond, you see Sean Connery most of the time.
All right, so let's talk about No Time to Die. Latest. What is that song? So far, so good.
Yeah, it's the only thing they got right in the whole movie.
Daniel Craig, the gun barrel. Notice that.
And again, the music, all it makes you, it's just so triggering. When you hear that music, you know something good is coming.
That's it. And so this one, we're not particularly in favor of. Maybe the credits are pretty good, you know, when he's in Under the Ice and all that, right?
I watched it once, and spoiler alert, they kill James Bond in this one, which to me is like, who do you think you are? I don't care what rights you have or anything else. You cannot kill James Bond. And I guarantee you they didn't kill James Bond. He'll be back. It might not be Daniel Craig. Who cares who it is? I mean, Hollywood being Hollywood, they'll try and make a woman 007 instead of using some originality and imagination and making her 008, capable of everything the same. But Hollywood's incapable of, you know, creative thinking. They just.
I'm sorry, but James Bond can't be a girl. 007 can't be a girl.
Thank you. 008 can be a girl.
Yeah.
So, Billy, we're going to go back to GoldenEye, that really good scene that you pulled up, and let me just run it, and you can comment.
It's one of the staples of James Bond movies is the opening scene. And this is one of the best of them all. This is all before the credits.
Yeah, you sit down in your seat, you enter your first bite of popcorn, and this is what you
Like,
see.
here we go, yeah. Even
See you later.
they're sitting there looking at him like, really? Are you really going to do that? Okay, so Superman wouldn't need to do that, but no one else could do that. James Bond and Superman, the only two characters in fiction or real life that could ever do this. It also points out James Bond's capabilities. There was no machine or gadget that he couldn't figure out how to work within seconds.
It doesn't work. No one finds that way.
Come on, baby. Uh-oh.
Hang in there. Oh! Saved the day by Pierce Brosnan.
Here, baby, where are you?
This is why you like Pierce Brosnan, because this is probably one of the best opening scenes ever, right?
And he was good. I mean, again, Sean Connery wasn't going to do it anymore. And the movie was good. All the Bond movies have been good. You miss Sean Connery for the Sean Connery part, but you'll take Pierce Brosnan, or you'll take Roger Moore, or you'll certainly take Daniel Craig, who I think is the second best one. Yeah, this is Bond chasing a bad guy who's got a list that will expose all the agents and put them in danger. And he's already been traveling over rooftops on motorcycles, and now he's on top of a train fighting with this guy. Just for the record, and it's unofficial, but James Bond is 253 million and 0 in one-on-ones with the bad guy.
Well, I could stop this for a second right here, because you also notice that familiar music isn't as familiar. It seems like some new music is entered in, or some very faint version of the old Bond music has come in, right?
This doesn't generate the same feeling.
I may have a shot.
But this was ridiculous. I mean, since when does MI6 talking to James Bond here, giving him advice about how to deal with the band?
Repeat, I do not have a clean
I do like the new Moneypenny.
Yeah, I like all the characters. I just think take the shot.
There's a tunnel ahead. I'm gonna lose them. Can you get into a better
Take the
position?
shot.
Negative, there's no time. Take the shot.
Take the shot.
I say take the shot. I can't, I may hit Bond. Take the bloody shot.
Got him. Good shot. There goes James Bond. Thanks, Em. Bad guy gets away. People die, all because you thought a guy who's never lost was going to lose this time. She should have been sissy slapped. Well, it's still a great scene. It's just you got to question, what has Em been doing all these years that she doesn't, have faith in Bond to win that fight.
Now we're going to turn to a little bit of the opening credits, where they're going to get some popular culture icons, notably Carly Simon.
Yep.
If you're
She's
more
a
than
magnificent voice.
15 years old, you ought to know who Carly Simon is, because she is a beautiful voice. And Paul McCartney.
It's also important to notice that name on the screen, Albert Broccoli. He was instrumental in the Cubby Broccoli in this kind of Bond. I mean, these are the greatest credits of all time, and they're a show of their own.
Jumping around, floating around. They use trampolines? Did they use trampolines for this, you think?
I would imagine they'd have to. I don't know how good Roger Moore was on a trampoline, but
No skin.
there's the iconic gun. Beretta. Beretta.
I think you know this artist. Who's this?
Paul McCartney. They might have thought of putting him in as James Bond.
His day might have been.
Oh, you did. You did. In the Roger Moore era, there were a lot of stars, but the Bond movies got a little campy with Roger Moore, with Jaws.
Getting shot out of the side mirror on the FDR Expressway in Manhattan. In a pimp mobile. That was a great scene, though. And then Uptown, the cult voodoo shop, right?
Yeah, is this the one with the voodoo in it?
This is a lot of voodoo. But these two episodes, these two credits demonstrate the producers and the directors wanting to bring in popular culture into the James Bond, which we see later. Adele was in one of the later ones singing.
And the reverse, it speaks volumes for the credibility of these filmmakers that you could get Paul McCartney or Carly Simon or Adele to participate. And even before that, Shirley Bassey.
So we're moving on to Diamonds Are Forever. We like this one. I think this introduces Blofeld in the opening credits. This is really cool. Where is Blofeld?
Where is he? I shan't ask you politely next time.
Ouch.
Where is Blofeld?
Cairo!
I love this one.
Guards,
Hit me.
hit me.
Okay.
One chance. Where can I find him? Marie. Ask Marie.
Who are you?
You can
My
see
name is
Connery
Bond.
getting a little old here.
James Bond.
Is there something I can do for you?
Yes, as a matter of fact, there is. There is something I'd like you to get off your chest. Where is Ernst Stavro Blofeld? Speak up, darling, I can't hear you.
We now come to phase 4, the nose. In my opinion, the most difficult part of a plastic transformation.
I want the operation done
They
tonight.
talk about the many faces of
You have no
Blofeld.
time left.
Introducing the picture, giving us a little bit of the plot, right?
Keep the
Yeah,
temperature at
and the
precisely 80
continuity of
degrees.
keeping Blofeld. Blofeld was throughout the, either seen or unseen throughout the James Bond history, like Professor Moriarty with Sherlock Holmes, Bond's arch enemy.
Ruh-roh. Amazing that a gun will work in that kind of mud.
And if this guy can't get out of the mud, he could get out of it before. If,
So
if
that's,
Bond movies are nothing else, there's certainly suspension of disbelief.
All right, now we move on to On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and that's interesting because this is a one and done James Bond, George Lazenby, who is in the
Yeah.
credit. That's him there in the gun barrel.
Yep.
Good pose, but maybe not a good actor for Broccoli Saltzman back then.
And I think they are even showing that in the music. It's like, okay, you know.
This never happened to the other fella.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of spoofing of themselves here.
A good-looking guy, fit, could do the scenes, but for some reason, and I don't know the reason, we could look it up. Maybe we should do that the next episode, why he didn't get to the second episode or the third.
Well, all you have to do is watch this one to know the answer to that. But I don't know contractually why, but he is a forgettable James Bond, unfortunately. Probably a good actor, probably a nice person, but he didn't compare with Sean Connery and Daniel Craig, really with any of them. Roger Moore.
I think Roger Moore was involved in The Saint, and I think he was unavailable. We'll look that up, but I think Roger Moore comes right after him. So, Billy, we move on to the original, the high bar Bonds, the first 4 or 5, and this is You Only Live Twice.
Again, you're sitting in a movie theater, and that movie.
Notice who's in there?
What?
That is Connery in the gun barrel. We're going to come back to that. This is the part we talked about before. Little Apollo rocket out there.
Calling Cape Cod. Cape Cod, this is Jupiter 16.
But it's a brilliant way to set up these movies. These credits are this opening scene and credits. They give you a taste that Bond's coming with the music, and they give you this outlandish scene.
Here we go. Fast forwarding. They're going to get swallowed up.
One of them going to get sent off into space. when his line gets clipped.
Line gets clipped. He's gone into the Neverworld. He may still be floating around up there. But they give you the plot. Here's the plot of the movie in the first few minutes of You Only Live Twice.
This is a job for James Bond, clearly.
And Mr. Osato from Osato Chemicals.
Over. Hello, Houston.
We've seen this guy here before too. He's been around. This is good technology for the 60s.
Always ahead of their time with the special effects.
Yeah.
And the gadgets.
Well, this is some out of the way place with the delegates.
For the Soviet government to deny responsibility in this matter.
The Soviet government denies all knowledge of this affair. The world knows we are a peace-loving people.
I hereby give notice that in 20 days' time,
Blofeld
the
is in a
United
different
States
role.
intends to launch her next spaceship into orbit. My government has instructed me to inform you that any interference with this spaceship will be regarded as an act of war.
One of our favorites is Thunderball, and I just love the opening credits from Thunderball, and it goes back to the ones where you say these first few episodes, they really set a high bar.
Yeah.
There's that music.
There it is. Again, you're there, and like, okay, I'm ready.
Look at the guy in the gun barrel.
Okay, so I know he's here. Let's see what he's got to deal with.
Backpack. Not the backpack, the jetpack.
Yeah.
And JB, notice JB? So JB was a Spectre agent called Jacques Bouvard. And I think he's supposed to be in that casket, but he's actually the female mourner there.
Yeah. And there's the other JB up top. Not buying any of it.
Time to talk about Bob Simmons, who was in the first 3 gun barrel sequences. He was the stuntman, and then he was the stunt coordinator for many years for the James Bond series. But he was in the gun barrel scene for the first 3 Bonds. So that's who that was. It wasn't Sean Connery in the first. They then came up with bringing him into it. And Simmons did all the stunts. He's actually this female right here. That's Bob Simmons. And later on, you see, as we go forward, as we go forward into the house where the mourning wife, quote unquote, meets James Bond.
Yep. And we still don't know that's the guy, so.
Come to offer my.
But there's going to be a little shock value here where he smacks her.
My dear Colonel Bouvard, I don't think you should have opened that car door by yourself.
Well, that's pretty observant by James Bond. In just the 3rd episode, he realizes it's the Spectre agent simply because he went and opened the limousine car door.
By himself.
That's how he catches him in the act. What a great spot. I stopped at that right now. And that guy in the air is Bob Simmons. And
Right.
Bob Simmons did all the stunt coordination. He did many of the stunts. He was Bond's double. And he deserves a lot of credit for the Bond series. Bob Simmons, who could have likely been James Bond, but the directors and the producers decided on Sean Connery, and he was a rough diamond. He was a rough diamond. We'll talk about that person, but the original director of the Bond series was a well-to-do Englishman. And he taught many of his mannerisms to Sean Connery. He didn't have those. So all the sophistication that you see from Sean Connery in the Bonds that he did came from the director. So Billy, we've gone through many of the 25 James Bond episodes, opening credits, opening scenes, memorable scenes. But we go back to perhaps the 2 greatest, maybe because of the story. Maybe because the writer was still around and having an imprint. Certainly, we think that Sean Connery is one of the greatest, if not the greatest Bond. And we already talked about that he didn't come that way. Terrence Young taught him those ways of being gracious, those English mannerisms that he didn't have as an actor. And he learned that on the set.
And he learned it well because he went on to be able to play many different roles with a less rugby type personality.
He had rugby when he needed it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So he had it. He could fight off Jaws or Odd Job.
But he got understandably typecast, and I think he rejected that at some point, and he said he'd never again, and that's why they made that sort of spoof "Never Say Never Again," because he did do it again. But that happens, people get typecast, and as good as they are and as loved as they are for the role they're in, they want to do other things. They're human beings. And Sean Connery, over time, was able to transcend that typecasting and do movies like The Man Who Would Be King, or even later on when he was with Catherine Zeta-Jones robbing stuff. He became a very good
Indiana Jones.
Good
father to Indiana. Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
named the dog Indiana.
These films started in 1962 with Dr. No, then From Russia with Love, then Goldfinger, then Thunderball, then You Only Live Twice. 5 in a row from Sean Connery, and presumably many of the supporting cast, like Bob Simmons.
From Russia with Love.
Yeah.
Who went on to get eaten by Jaws, a different Jaws later on in his life.
That's right.
Goldfinger might be the most iconic of all the Bond movies. It's certainly one of the first ones that comes to mind. Yeah, this one, I always remember this one because it's the first one I ever saw. I was in 7th grade. I think we snuck in without letting our parents know. My brother held that over my head for a long time. In fact, every time he'd get me in trouble at the dinner table, he would go,
Goldfinger. And there's Bob Simmons again.
Here he is.
There he is, first 3. Now everybody knows something they didn't know.
But the audience knows the same thing. Here comes James Bond. This is going to be fun. Every time they see that.
I'll move it along a little bit. He's coming in a wetsuit with what kind of bird would you say that is? A dead pigeon?
This is a typical James Bond type opening where, you're immediately taken in, but you really don't know what's going on.
No. Now it's an oil refinery. He's inside, of course, with his plastique on his wetsuit.
It's looks like a satin wetsuit.
Fancy watch. Find out about that watch later.
Yeah, we should do an episode with the gimmicks one time with Q.
We'll definitely do that. All the gadgets, gimmicks, things that help Bond survive.
Okay, James, let's get ready for the party.
There he is. Comes out of the wetsuit, even with the red carnation. Just blew up the refinery.
Congratulations. Thank you. Mr. Ramirez and his friends will be out of business.
At least they won't be using heroin-flavored bananas to finance revolutions.
Don't go back to your hotel, senor. They'll be watching you. There's a plane leaving from Miami in an hour.
I'll be on it, but first I have some unfinished business to attend to.
Oh, he says unfinished business. Look how good he looks. Should have worn a white jacket.
Yeah, and he's just been underwater and blowing stuff up.
Where's the bird poop on his shoulder?
Oh,
Forgive me.
why do you always wear that thing?
I have a slight inferiority complex. Where was I? Oh, yes.
This is great. How is he ever going to see this guy?
That's right. He's going to have a headache. This is a realistic scene. Breaking stuff on his back.
Yeah. always finds a way, James. No matter what
I
the
used to take bathtubs with a little fan near my side, but never anymore.
Shocking.
Shocking.
At the beginning, Dr. No.
Harry Saltzman, who didn't last through the series. Albert Broccoli lasted a long time, and then his wife took over, Barbara. Follow the bouncing ball.
They introduced some color. Technicolor was kind of coming on back then. Here's our man.
This is the seeds of opening credits. They weren't there yet to how good they got over time.
Yeah.
You could tell they were working on it. Right from the
They did
get-go.
pretty well here with the. So Billy, you're right. James Bond never sweated in a jacket. I'm sweating a little bit, but this is well worth it. You've got your golf hat on. I've got my playing Baccarat outfit on. All in respect to the 25 episodes of James Bond and all those who played him. Any thoughts here on the opening credits or the opening scenes that we didn't cover?
Well, one of the things that's noticeable and memorable to me was how old I was, my generation, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds watching this stuff. It had everything for them. And surprisingly, as a 70-year-old, it still has everything. So it transcends time. The character transcends time. Like I said about that last movie, I think they had a lot of nerve to think they could kill James Bond. I don't care who owns the rights. You can't take James Bond away from the people just because you're tired of doing it or because you're tired of portraying it. So bring Bond back. We all want him.
Yeah, the jetpack, the small helicopter that you see in You Only Live Twice.
Yeah. What's it, Nancy? It's got a name.
Little Nelly.
Little Nelly.
That's right. And in that show, in You Only Live Twice, you see Bond putting it together.
Yeah.
Step by step.
Yeah.
And then I guess that was the one with the volcano with the
fake top.
The fake top. They couldn't find out where these
and then all the
rockets.
ninjas.
Yeah. And then
and Bond gets married in that movie.
That's right. And 5 minutes later, just after the honeymoon, the little thread comes down to his wife with a little trickle of poison into her lip, right? Isn't that the one?
Yeah, I don't know if that's his wife yet. It may be. Or just one of the girls he was assigned by the guy who got the Osaka.
They never figured him for a married man. Couldn't do all the things if he was married. He'd have to take out the garbage. No, don't go open that jetpack. Take out the garbage.
Yeah, he was a widower. And they pointed that out in one of the movies with Timothy Dalton, but I think that was always true. When Bond first came on the scene, he was a widower in the books. But I don't know, and I don't care. He wasn't attached while he was out there on these adventures.
Looking over the opening credits and key opening scenes, I do have a better appreciation for Pierce Brosnan, especially that scene where he's following the plane.
No, Pierce Brosnan was good, I thought.
And then I think it's the latest. I think that's the latest Mission Impossible. Tom Cruise does the same thing. He takes off a mountain range from his motorcycle, but he doesn't have a plane to catch. He's got some other way of getting out of it. Our hats off to the producers and the directors. My hat's off. Take off my tie.
Especially the Broccolis.
The Broccolis.
Abby and Barbara.
And the Harry Saltzman. We'll definitely follow up with a gadget episode. Our viewers like to see James Bond. Let us know. Please subscribe and give us any of your comments on what you want to see. It seems like you like to watch James Bond. You like us to talk about things like racing and gambling and maybe golf.
So just remember us, shots, alternate shots.
I admire your courage, Miss,
Trench. Sylvia Trench. I admire your luck, Mr.
Bond. James Bond.
Why are you laughing?
Well, at least we have the laugh to add at the end.
Right. We've gone from 12 handicaps at this to 19 handicaps in just a week.
That's what happened. Somebody changed my grip, and the next thing you know, I can't do the podcast anymore. I felt like I was in the first row of the first pew at church, right during the sermon.
And your brother was poking
My
you.
brother was making me laugh.
Thanks for joining us
Casper,
today.
Billy
We
Harmon,
really appreciate your
Double
feedback.
Indemnity,
And please
Arky,
subscribe to the
Two
show.
Router,
Hit 'em
Odd
hard
Job.
and hit 'em off.
That's 36 holes.